The rain had already soaked through her thin jacket long before the bus arrived. She stood at the edge of the crowded station with nothing but a worn backpack, a pair of tired eyes, and a heart that had almost forgotten what hope felt like. Every passing stranger looked through her as if she didn't exist. She had spent 3 days without a proper meal, another night without a safe place to sleep, and countless hours wondering how a life filled with dreams could collapse so completely. Just when she believed the world had nothing left to offer, a tiny voice rose above the sound of engines and falling rain. The little girl looked directly into her eyes with a smile so pure it seemed untouched by the cruelty of the world. Without fear, without hesitation, she whispered words that would change 2 broken lives forever. "You need a home, and I need a mommy." Before we continue this emotional journey, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in kindness, and subscribe to the channel if you believe that love, compassion, and second chances still exist in this world. Your support helps us bring more inspiring stories like this to life. The young homeless woman was named Emily. She was only 24 years old, but hardship had added years to her face. There had been a time when she imagined graduating from college, finding meaningful work, and building a family of her own. Instead, life had taken everything one painful step at a time. Her father had passed away when she was 16, leaving behind medical debts that swallowed every family saving. Her mother worked herself to exhaustion until illness claimed her strength as well. By the time Emily turned 20, she had buried both parents and was left to survive completely alone. She fought harder than anyone knew. She worked double shifts in restaurants, cleaned offices late at night, and rented a tiny apartment where she often skipped meals just to pay the rent. She never complained because she believed difficult seasons eventually passed. Then one terrible winter evening, the restaurant where she worked suddenly closed after the owner declared bankruptcy. Within weeks she lost her income. Bills piled higher than she could manage, eviction notices appeared on her door, and every job interview ended with the same polite rejection. Months later, Emily found herself carrying everything she owned inside one faded backpack. Friends slowly disappeared, relatives stopped answering her calls, and strangers hurried past her as though poverty were something contagious. She tried to remain invisible because she could no longer bear the pity in people's eyes. That rainy afternoon she had almost given up searching for another shelter. Every bed in the city seemed occupied, and every waiting list stretched longer than the last. The bus station offered temporary warmth, even if only for a little while. She sat quietly on a cold bench, staring at puddles collecting beneath her worn shoes, wondering whether anyone would notice if she simply vanished. Across the platform sat a little girl wearing a bright yellow raincoat. She couldn't have been older than 6. Unlike everyone else, the child never stopped looking at Emily. There was no judgment in those curious eyes, only concern that seemed strangely mature for someone so young. Beside the little girl sat an elegant woman in her early 40s. She looked exhausted despite her expensive clothes. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes, and every few moments she glanced anxiously at her phone before forcing another smile for the child. It was obvious she carried invisible burdens of her own. The little girl suddenly slipped away from the bench before the woman noticed. Tiny boots splashed through the rain as she walked directly toward Emily. Emily lowered her eyes, expecting the child to ask for directions or perhaps mistake her for someone else. Instead, the little girl stood only inches away and gently held out half of the chocolate bar she had been eating. Emily's first instinct was to refuse. That chocolate might have been the child's afternoon treat, and she couldn't imagine taking food from someone so young. But the little girl insisted with such innocent determination that Emily finally accepted one small piece. The child smiled as though she had just accomplished something wonderful. For the first time in weeks, Emily smiled back. Only then did the little girl softly say the words that froze time itself. "You need a home, and I need a mommy." Emily felt her heartbeat stop. Tears instantly filled her eyes before she even understood why. No one had looked at her with affection in years. No one had spoken to her as though she mattered. The elegant woman hurried over, clearly embarrassed, apologizing for her daughter's unexpected behavior. She explained that her name was Grace and that her daughter, Lily, had developed a habit of speaking directly from her heart ever since losing her father 2 years earlier. Grace expected Emily to laugh awkwardly or walk away. Instead, she saw silent tears rolling down the young woman's cheeks. Emily quietly explained that she hadn't heard words filled with love in a very long time. Something changed inside Grace at that moment. She no longer saw a homeless stranger sitting on a bus station bench. She saw a frightened young woman carrying unbearable loneliness behind tired eyes. As the rain continued falling outside, the three remained standing together beneath the station roof, unaware that a single innocent sentence had begun weaving together lives that destiny had somehow kept apart until that very day. Innocent words at the bus station had rescued her long before she ever received a bed or a job. Those words reminded her that even when the world had forgotten her, her life still had value. If this story has touched your heart so far, please write, "Kindness changes lives," in the comments. We'd love to know that this message reached you, and your comment helps spread hope to thousands of others who may need it today. On the second anniversary of that rainy afternoon, Emily, Grace, and Lily returned to the same bus station carrying dozens of care packages. Together they handed out food, blankets, hygiene kits, and handwritten notes that simply read, "You matter. Don't give up. Better days are coming." Some people smiled. Others cried. A few hugged complete strangers. Emily understood that sometimes the smallest act of compassion arrives at the exact moment someone has decided there is no hope left. As the sun broke through the clouds, Emily looked at Lily, now laughing as she handed a sandwich to another little girl waiting with her father. Emily remembered the sentence that had once seemed impossible. A child had seen beyond worn clothes and empty pockets. She had seen a person worthy of love. That single moment proved that kindness does not ask where someone comes from or what they own. It simply reaches out a hand. Life had not erased Emily's painful memories, but it had transformed them into a source of strength. Every scar became a reminder that even the darkest chapters can lead to beautiful endings when compassion enters at the right moment. She had once searched desperately for a place to belong. Instead, she found something far greater, a family that chose one another every single day. Before you leave, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs encouragement, subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories, and leave a comment telling us what part of this story touched your heart the most. Your support helps these messages of hope reach people who may be waiting for their own second chance. And as Emily held Lily's hand while walking away from the bus station, she finally understood that home is not always a place waiting to be found. Sometimes, home is the heart that chooses to make room for you when the whole world has turned away. That quiet act of love became the beginning of a new life, proving that even the smallest voice can change someone's destiny forever. The greatest miracles are often born from the simplest acts of kindness.